Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump took the witness stand this afternoon in the E. Jean Carroll defamation trial, telling the court, quote, he wanted to defend himself, his family, and the presidency. His testimony lasted just a few minutes as the judge limited what the ex-president could say in court. Trump did, however, stand by his previous denial of Carroll's sexual assault accusation. Closing arguments are set to begin tomorrow morning.
Apparently, there is a draft resolution currently circulating among the Republican National Committee that would formally declare Donald Trump the Republican Party's 2024 presumptive nominee. North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo joins us now to talk about the presidential race. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to see you. How are you doing?
We're doing well, so let's get into it. Trump still needs to reach the delegate requirements, though, necessary to win the nomination. So is this resolution that's out there even valid?
I mean, the RNC has rules. It can change its own rules. It seems problematic to me from a procedural standpoint that they would do that. President Trump certainly has the inside track, but we have a month to go until the next meaningful contest. I mean, Nevada will be in between there, but Nikki Haley's not planning to compete there. But when South Carolina comes around, it's a winner-take-all delegate state. The former president's expected to win, but if he doesn't, and he starts to slip a little bit in some of these winner-take-all states, it could get close. So if the RNC wants to close this out quickly, maybe they'll change the rules to make that happen.
That said, you know, she's got internal numbers. This was supposed to be a done deal by Super Tuesday. She didn't perform as well in New Hampshire as her team was hoping. In your mind, does she even make it beyond South Carolina?
Scott, I think the real question is if she can even make it to South Carolina. It's a long time. It's certainly the former president's nomination to lose at this point. I think as the days go by, Nikki Haley has to think about her fundraising opportunities. They have some money left. Do they have enough money to get 4 more weeks to compete not only in South Carolina but beyond? But on the other hand, what happens with the former president? You know, she started to question his mental state and
right.
his how sharp he is after he confused her with Nancy Pelosi on a number of times in a speech a couple of days ago. If he makes those kinds of mistakes, she may pick up some ground as people start to get nervous that he might not be able to compete in the general election.
Well, we've seen a lot of people, obviously candidates that wanted that Republican nomination drop out now. And now Trump is really firing back at Haley, specifically donors saying that they would be blacklisted from the MAGA camp. What is your reaction to that? And is that even a real thing that you would be blacklisted in the way that Trump is alleging here?
I mean, it's vague, Tia. I don't know exactly what he means. If I'm working for the president's campaign, the former president's campaign as a fundraiser, that made me nervous because, in other words, most of the donors that President Trump has are small dollar donors, repeated small dollar donors. A lot of the big donors went to other candidates who have since dropped out, including Nikki Haley. And so essentially what President Trump's saying is if you continue to support Nikki Haley, after she drops out, don't come our way. And again, if I'm President Trump's fundraiser, so I'm a little frustrated about that. If he means you have businesses, you're not going to do businesses with the federal government, contracts and so forth once I become president, that's a whole nother ball of wax and something that should be a great concern.
What's the old adage, it's the economy, stupid? Well, we learned today that the economy is not only resilient, it's robust. And it comes on the heels of a consumer survey that says consumers are, Professor, getting more and more optimistic about what they are seeing with the strength of the economy. How important is that to President Biden going forward?
I'm glad you remember the 1992 campaign, Scott. It is the economy, stupid, and people care very much about it. They tell us in polls after polls and in exit polls that they vote very much about the economy. And it's not surprising that as these numbers are coming out today and as the consumer confidence is rising, that the Trump campaign is sort of shifting its strategy. We heard from Mitch McConnell over the last 2 days that President Trump has asked them to not move forward on a deal for border security, that he's worried that if the border gets better, if the border situation gets better, that's going to look better for President Biden and he won't have as much to run on. And so I think as they're thinking about what issues are going to be most helpful to the former president, it's going to be tough to run against an economy that looks strong and that people feel is rebounding. So they need to look for other things, and killing this bipartisan deal on the border may be one of those strategies.
All right. Well, at some point, there will be two candidates, and we will continue to talk to you about this right here on First It for Professor Stephen Caliendo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right.